Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Football Chemist, where we use data and analytics to go through football's biggest talking points without confusing you with all the technical jargon. On today's episode, we'll be looking at Ben Doak, who is currently on loan at Middlesbrough from Liverpool, and he is getting a lot of attention from Premier League clubs. Both Crystal Palace and Ipswich have been interested in the Scottish winger, who caught the eye of many fans when he starred for Scotland against Croatia and produced a dominant display against Josko Gvardiol. But as part of this mini-series where we look at the transfer rumours and assess whether a player will fit in at the club that they are linked to or whether they're better off staying, we will see how Doak will improve the likes of Ipswich and Crystal Palace, but we'll also look at what he brings to Liverpool and whether he is the future and Liverpool should keep hold of him, especially when their current right winger has so much doubt over his future. Let's get into it. So Doak is currently on loan at Middlesbrough, and who better to tell you about his time at Middlesbrough than a Middlesbrough fan? So I'm going to hand you over to my good friend Joe Harston, who'll tell you a little bit more about Doak's season so far at Middlesbrough and what makes him so good for Borough.
Now, I haven't seen the statistical breakdown that Sanjay's given so far, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of the lowdown on kind of the eye test, I guess, and the things that we notice as Borough fans. So first of all, I'd say that Ben Doak's quite an old-fashioned winger in this kind of era of football where Guardiola-style wingers are being taught to kind of stop and pass backwards. Ben Doak is always trying to beat his man, and that really works in our system. Carrick likes to play a bit of an asymmetrical front four. Ben Doak is always completely glued to his wing, just like how Isaiah Jones used to play in that position. Completely glued to his wing, always looking to beat his man. Sometimes he cuts it back to Finn Azaz. We've seen multiple assists from him so far this season, just like that. Or he'll try and run to the byline and get a cross in from there. He's also scored a few goals from doing exactly the same thing. Late runs into the box and with back post tap-ins. I think he's had 2 goals so far with doing exactly that. Teams are starting to work out kind of how he does it, but they're not working out how to stop it. He's just absolutely lightning, and with an excellent first touch, his technical ability is just unbelievable for his age. Obviously, like all Borough fans, I'm very much hoping that Liverpool decide to keep him at Borough for the rest of the season. In terms of what I'd like to see more from him, I think that he could definitely conserve his energy a little bit more. He works harder than most players on the pitch, and it does mean that he doesn't end up lasting the full 90 minutes. Compared to other wingers we've had, he tracks back more than anyone else. And that leads me on to my next point, that he does pick up quite a few yellow cards. Tracking back when we're chasing the game and he's frustrated, a few shirt pulls, a few cynical fouls every now and then. Obviously, if it's stopping an attack, sometimes it's the best thing to do, but he has picked up a few yellow cards for a winger. And yeah, just continuing to adapt to teams doubling up on him. We played Cardiff a few weeks ago, and he managed to get an assist quite early on. And if he can keep doing that and keep dealing with teams that are putting a full-back, left-back, centre midfielder and a centre back, all kind of keeping an eye on him at the same time, and if he still managed to get those type of goals and those type of assists, then he's got a very bright future ahead of him, and it will certainly be in the Premier League, but hopefully not until at least next season.
Cheers, Joe. So here's just a little bit more about Ben Doak. He joined Liverpool from Celtic as a 16-year-old and quickly moved through their youth ranks and got a few appearances for the Liverpool senior team in some of the cup competitions. However, he spent most of last season out with a torn meniscus, so this season has been his first full season really playing at the senior level. This helped guide Borough to the playoff places in this half season so far, even though he's only on loan, and he has been one of the Championship's best players so far, despite only being 19. Liverpool certainly feel that he is ready to take the step up to the Premier League, but they're also happy with his progress at Middlesbrough so far, so are happy to wait until next season and assess him when he returns on loan. However, if the right offer does come this January, they will be willing to sell him to one of their Premier League rivals. Doak particularly excels with his progressive play. He is the player who will create chances for your team, and he'll get into those positions where he can really try and make a difference in your team. He is good at driving into the penalty area, both with the ball and with his passing, and he has really stood out as one of the best players in the Championship for this. He directly creates chances with his goal-creating actions, and this is why Liverpool value him so highly, and why there's such a difference between the bids that have been received from Ipswich and Crystal Palace, who have bid 15 million and 16 million for him, and Liverpool's asking price. But for now, let's take a bit of a closer look at what Ben Doak will bring to the teams that he is linked with, as well as what he could possibly bring to Liverpool in the long term, as they do need to start planning for a Salah replacement, whether he signs a contract or not. So let's start off with imagining a world where Ben Doak plays for Ipswich. Now, Ipswich have a problem creating chances. Although this is their first season in the Premier League and no one really expected them to stay up, they still find themselves in a position where if they pick up a few points here and there, they can really push to try and get another season in the Premier League. However, they do need to do something about their attacking play because currently they've got the fewest progressive passes in the league. And this is something that Doak can really capitalise on if he does sign for Ipswich, because he is the complete opposite of this. He is the kind of player who gets in and receives progressive passes. And this is very nicely shown here, where Doak is actually top in the Championship for progressive passes received compared to his other rivals. And whilst we're looking at all of these stats, it is worth considering that this is the second tier of English football rather than the top tier. So the standard is expected to be a bit lower. And while Doak's numbers are impressive, we do need to consider that this is the Championship and not the Premier League. But still, it is so impressive that he is getting into these positions. And it really is a testament to Middlesbrough as well, and a smart move by Liverpool to send him to a club like Borough, where he is getting the chances that he needs. He is getting game time and he is getting the good service that he deserves in order to progress his play. Furthermore, Ipswich are really struggling with passes into the penalty area. And this is kind of linked to progressive passes, where we're looking at how they can really attack into the penalty area, create chances, and so score goals. And if they're not passing into the penalty area, then the strikers have little chance to really capitalise on it. They've got an excellent striker in Liam Delap, so if they can get a player like Doak into their team who can provide chances to Liam Delap, then that can really take their level up to that slightly higher standard. And then we're getting into the point where we could talk about Ipswich being a Premier League team next season. But again, if we look at passes into the penalty area, Doak is in the top 10 in the Championship. He's down here in 8th and he's surrounded by his teammates as well, such as Hayden Hackney and Finn Azaz. So it shows that Borough are up there as one of the teams that really gets passes into the penalty area. But the fact that Doak is still up there with his teammates shows that he is also getting into these positions. And so if he is the main creator for Ipswich, he will be way higher in this metric. Also, we need to look at the players that Doak will be playing alongside and how he will complement them. And the key highlight to this is Leif Davis, who is Ipswich's main creator on the left-hand side. Therefore, if you bring Doak onto the right-hand side, Ipswich now have got threats coming from both sides of the wings. They also complement each other quite well because Davis tends to stay out wide and put crosses into the box, whereas Doak prefers to cut in. Even though he is naturally right-footed, he likes to drive into the penalty area rather than staying out wide and putting in crosses. Also, Ipswich do really lack a threat on the right. They've got Davis on the left, they need someone on the right, and that is why Doak would be perfect at Ipswich. Furthermore, whilst we do mention Davis, if Liverpool do consider selling Doak, it might be wise to sell him to someone like Ipswich because Davis could be on their radar in the near future. As we know, Liverpool do have a big problem with their left backs, and Davis could be a prime target, as I covered in my previous video. However, there are key reasons why Doak might not work too well at Ipswich. Ipswich are in a relegation battle, and they need quick fixes rather than a long-term project. Doak is only 19, he is still raw, he's got a lot of potential, but he still needs to learn a lot to deliver on that potential. Ipswich needs someone who will come into the team and perform from the get-go and really lift their team to try and get them out of the relegation zone. And maybe Doak isn't the best player for this. Maybe they're better off getting someone with more Premier League experience and more experience fighting in the relegation zone. But Ipswich are clearly interested, and for good reason. And they're not the only team who are interested. The other team who submitted a bid for Doak is Crystal Palace. Now, what would Doak bring to a team like Palace? Now, Palace are in a completely different situation to Ipswich. Whilst they've both had their relegation jitters, Palace have really looked to push to another level this season and realistically shouldn't be finding themselves in a relegation battle. They've been in the Premier League long enough and have got a progressive manager in Oliver Glasner to really move into that mid-table battle and maybe even look at what teams like Fulham, Bournemouth and especially Nottingham Forest have done this season and try and push for those European places, given how chaotic the Premier League is right now. Therefore, they'll be looking to build in the long term, knowing that their Premier League status is secure for now. However, there are elements to their attacking play that they do really need to improve. Michael Olise's departure to Bayern Munich this summer really has left a hole in the Palace squad to fill, and maybe Doak can be that man. Because if we look here, Palace have really struggled for goal-creating actions. They're 16th in the league for this, and a club like Palace, who've got aspirations to be a top-half team, really need to improve this. And one player who can definitely improve this is Doak. Again, he is in the top 10 in the Championship in this metric. As you can see here, he is 4th on the list. And you'd expect that if he is in a team like Palace, where he's surrounded by other good creators and players who can convert the chances that he gets, you can really see him moving up this list. Palace have got some outstanding attackers such as Sarr and Eze and even Mateta, who Doak can really complement and really try and drive them forward and up their numbers in terms of goals and assists. But if we look at this graph, we can see that Salah and Eze are not the best at carrying the ball into the box. But compare this to the Championship version of this graph, you can see that this is Doak's key strength. He is quite literally off the charts for carries into the penalty area, and he is far above any of his Championship rivals or teammates. Meanwhile, Salah and Eze find themselves really bogged down with the rest of the pack in the Premier League. Again, yes, it is a higher level, but still, Doak is showing this potential, and because he is so young, we know that he can grow and really improve this as well. But a club like Palace are really crying for someone who can carry the ball into the penalty area and get into those positions where he's going to stretch the defence, create space for his teammates and score more goals. Furthermore, as a progressive team, Palace are really struggling. They are 18th in the league for progressive carries, which is far below where you'd expect them to be. They made such strong gains last season when Oliver Glasner took over, but they've really stuttered so far this season, and they need that extra bit of quality to really push on. And they need that extra bit of quality to push on and make themselves a genuine mid-table team, rather than a team that's having any worries about relegation whatsoever. And who is one of the best in the Championship for progressive carries? Of course, it is Doak again. He is second in the Championship, he takes the ball forward, and this is just another example of the many different ways that Doak can attack the opposition penalty area, create chances, stretch defences, and really move a team forward and get them higher up in the league. And as I mentioned before, Palace is stable in the Premier League, and this means that they can look for someone like Doak who can really build a long-term project and take them forward not just immediately, but the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, where Palace look to slowly move up the league and potentially even get into the fight for Europe. We've seen Aston Villa do it, we're seeing Forest doing it right now. Even clubs like Bournemouth and Fulham are also on the cusp of European places right now. These established Premier League sides who are currently sitting mid-table need to capitalise on the weaknesses of some of the more established Big Six right now and cement their place in European competitions, because this is their best chance that they'll ever get. But whilst Palace want him, so do Liverpool. So Liverpool will drive a tough negotiation, and they will only sell him if they get a very hefty fee for him. So let's take a look at why Liverpool are so keen to keep hold of Doak and what he could bring to them in the future. It is rumoured that Liverpool are asking for around £30 million for Ben Doak, which is a big step up from the £15 and £16 million that they have been offered so far. And the main reason they're doing this is because they want to put off their rivals from trying to sign him, because they do want to keep him and they see him as part of their future. They know his worth and they have monitored him very closely as he has come through their youth system, and his form so far this season has been even more impressive when you consider how much of last season he missed through his meniscus injury. Therefore, I do think it is quite unlikely that he'll be moving anywhere this winter, because Liverpool really want to keep hold of him and they're very happy with what he is doing at Borough so far this season, and I'm more than happy to let him have another half a season there to really develop his game. And the reason why Liverpool want to keep hold of him is because they see him as Mo Salah's heir. Salah might be leaving Liverpool next season, and that will create a huge problem. But even if Salah does sign a new contract, he is unlikely to be there for longer than 3 years, and he is unlikely to be at the top of his game for any longer than that period too. Therefore, Liverpool do need to start planning in the long term. 3 years down the line, Doak will be 22 and really starting to enter the prime of his career. So Liverpool do need to start shopping for a Salah replacement. If Salah goes this summer, they probably do need to bring someone in with more experience who is already at their peak. However, if Salah stays, they can afford to develop someone into his successor and take a bit of time with them. And that is why Doak would be a prime candidate to do this. Remember this graph that I showed you about how Championship players attack the penalty area? And how Doak was off the charts in terms of his carries into the penalty area? Well, you know who's leading the Premier League in terms of carries into the penalty area? It is, of course, Mo Salah. When you look at these two graphs side by side, you can see how Doak is Salah's natural successor. Their playing styles are so similar, and the ways that they like to attack into the box just have so many similarities that it makes such sense for Doak just to slot in place of Salah. Furthermore, the other Liverpool player whose future is in doubt is Trent Alexander-Arnold, and whoever plays on the right flank for Liverpool will need to be wary about who's going to be at right back, because if it is someone like Conor Bradley, who is more of a traditional attacking right back where he stays wide and puts in crosses, this further plays into Doak's narrative as Liverpool's next big thing, because Doak likes to cut inside. Therefore, Bradley's overlapping runs can mean that they can really stretch the left flank of any team that they play against. Also, Liverpool love to produce goal-creating actions. Given that they are top in the Premier League in terms of goal-creating actions, they will need to get someone in who can produce a lot of goal-creating actions. And as we have already touched on, Doak is one of the best in the Championship for that, and so he will not be fazed by this extra responsibility that he would have if he is in the team. So what's going to happen with Doak this winter? I think overwhelmingly the most likely scenario is that he will stay at Middlesbrough for the rest of the season, return to Anfield for next season, and be phased into the team to slowly become their leading right winger. Whether it's Salah who is leading them or someone else who they sign in the summer, that is still up for debate, but that all depends on Salah's contract situation, which is a completely different kettle of fish. However, if he does return to Liverpool next year, he will need to get more minutes. A young player like him needs to be playing, but fortunately Liverpool have got a big enough squad where they will have a lot of rotation, especially in the domestic cups. So hopefully Doak will get minutes in the League Cup and in the FA Cup next season, especially if Liverpool go on a bit of a run. But Liverpool know his worth, and they definitely see him as the next Mo Salah, and that is very high praise indeed. Look at what Salah has been doing for Liverpool this season. Those are big boots to fill, but Doak is still young. He has shown so much potential, both for Middlesbrough and for Scotland this season, that you wouldn't bet against it. Liverpool value Doak very highly, and there's good reason why. So what do you think Doak should end up doing? Do you think it's time for him to move and get some more Premier League minutes? Or is he better off waiting it out with Liverpool and really trying to establish himself as one of the biggest names in world football in the future? Please like this video if you've enjoyed what you've watched, and subscribe to this channel if you want to see some more content, because it really helps me out. Also, give us a follow on Instagram where you can see more behind the scenes content and short form videos. I'll see you next time.